and we don't want to make them feel uncomfortable doing that. So, if you go up and admire someone's scarf or, a man's headdress, they're required to give it to you because you have said something. So we want to make sure we're careful of that, okay?
I own a very large coat.
Very large coat.
That I will never use via that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
Just make sure you
So it is real, believe me.
Well, there's a few people coming in. I will tell you the story. My husband's in Air Force, soon to be Lieutenant Colonel, and he escorts a 4-star general to the Middle East to deal with safety issues. And he sat down in front of the head of the Iraqi general, and this is a 4-star general who knows better. And he said, wow, that's a very interesting sculpture, and it was the ugliest looking eagle anybody had ever seen. And he was trying to be polite and make nice conversation. Well, guess who carried that eagle home? My husband. It's not a good situation. Caution on be careful when you're eating in public and things like that. They're offended if you use your left hand.
Traveling with a bunch of people like this, especially a lot of people you don't know real well, sometimes there can be irritations because frankly I'm a very irritating person, I know. And but we can be irritating to each other sometimes, but let's just do our best to try to get along as good as we can. Let's God has specifically told me that if anybody wants, that we don't need to discuss theology or viewpoints amongst ourselves, that if you want to know what the facts and the truth are, ask me. Okay? And otherwise, I mean, this is such a diverse group. I mean, we've got folks here from all kinds of backgrounds, and that's great. We have one thing in common, however. I think most of us take the biblical text seriously as history, and that draws us all together. In fact, Dr. Ziad, the Department of Antiquities Director here in Jordan, who was the director last year, who's out right now, but hopefully he'll be back in soon. We're hoping on that. Told me when we were excavating last season at Tal Hammam Sodom, which you'll see at the end of the trip, he said, us Muslims and Christians and Jews, we have at least one thing in common. I said, what's that? He said, Sodom. That may be about it, because we all share and agree on that particular story. Whether we agree on anything else, maybe not much. But on that particular story, yes. So there are things that can bind us together, and one of those principal things, of course, is the Bible. We call this Bible Land Expedition because our goal here is to take you to the Bible land. I'm not going to haul you off to meet with Benjamin Netanyahu when we get to Israel. A lot of tour groups will do that. I don't care about the Knesset. Well, maybe I do politically for the modern world, but I mean, for intents of this trip, this is a biblical / historical / archaeological tour to give you the opportunity to experience as best we can possibly give it to you the land as it was in the time of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, Joshua, David, John the Baptist, and Jesus. We want to give you that land. There are some places where it still looks like it did in those days. And we will be pointing out those locations to you as we enter them, because we're very big in trying to give you a sense of place. It's not my term, that's Dr. John Moore's term. But a sense of place is to be able to stand and look around you and get the sense that this is a place represented on Bible maps, but this is the real deal. This is the way it looks. This is the way it smells. And there will be some of those. This is the way it feels. And we want to get you, because what this will do is that when you go back home, when you go back to your Bible and you open it up and you read, what we want you to experience is to have those those places, those sights and sounds, that ground, those walls, that sky, to have that sense flooding back into the text to give it color and dimensionality that otherwise it might not have. So that's what this trip is all about. Now we will try to, we'll give you some modern facts here and there, and tell you what's happening today. That's kind of you can't miss that. But for the most part, we're going to be focusing on what happened biblically from place to place. We're going to be coursing over roads today, roads that have been used for thousands and thousands of years, going all the way back to the times before the patriarchs. So these are going to be famous places from a biblical point of view. So that's what we're going to do. I don't have a whole lot more to say because we're going to talk incessantly, kind of all day. So we want to get started as quickly as we can. At some point, our tour guide, it's obligatory. If you have this big of a group, you have to have a tour guide accompanying you. So George will be showing up here shortly, and he will hang with us, and so we'll get him to run interference for us when necessary, and he'll just sit down and be quiet most of the time. You've already met our bus driver, and we'll see them shortly. I can't really think of anything else we need to do. Oh, this. The new handbook, John Moore and I just published this with TSU Press. It's Dr. Norm Geisler was very nice to write the foreword for us, and so this book is out. It was supposed to be in our office, the box of books for this tour group before we left. Something happened to their production that week, and they weren't able to get it out until this last Monday, yesterday. So we do have it now. We're trying to ship it to Lane Rittmeyer overnight in England, so he can grab the box and have it to us by the time we cross the river. So we're trying to do that. We'll see how that logistic works. So, but otherwise, you'll get this eventually. So this will either be a good guidebook while you're here for the time of the trip that you have it, or it'll be a really, really good review for you when you get back. If we don't have it, we'll send it to everybody and so on. And by the time we ship those back to the United States, to be able to ship those to everybody, if that's the way it happens, they'll be a real expensive book by then. But by the way, cheaper than the little spiral-bound one, still. So we figured it was worth the shot to try to get it over here. All right, so you can enjoy that. It has a whole lot of information. It has history, archaeology, language, pottery. Some people get interested in the ceramics, because frankly, the ceramics are everything in the land. Pottery is how we date everything here in the Holy Land and excavations. And we'll point some of that out in some of the museums and things like that we go to. So, all right. Any quick questions before we do a really quick sweep through and have everybody introduce themselves? Yes?
Is photography able to take pictures anywhere?
Pretty much.
In museums and that, or are we going to be told?
Pretty much. In museums and places like that, usually you can do it, but no flash. So that's usually the case. But most of the places you can take photos, you just can't use any kind of flash mechanism. Yeah. And so we'll find out as we go. We'll let everybody know what the situation is place to place. But most places, everything today. Now, we are going to be doing some pretty tough walking. Most of the places we're going today do not get visited by tourists, except for Mount Nebo. But Heshbon, Dibon, Arrowhead, if we can get our bus driver to find it. It's not on the maps. So we'll do our best. But so many of these places, they're not tourism sites. They are biblical sites. We want to take you there. but it'll be some tough walking in places. Please watch your step. Please be careful. We're not in a big fat hurry. We're going to take our time. I'm not going to run off ahead of you. We're going to try to stay together as much as we can. Now, with this size of a group, things can work really well. I do have a rather loud voice when I need to. So, but Lane doesn't. Lane tends to be a little bit softer spoken than me. So the rule will be try to keep up close enough to hear as much as you can. I know that there are inveterate stragglers. Some of you are stragglers by DNA. So, I mean, you will just, be in your own world, and you will be looking at things that, you'll be 100 yards behind everybody. That's okay. But just know that if you choose to do that, and I'm not going to yell at you for doing it, I may have once in a while say, come on, hurry up. But just remember that when I get to a place, I'm going to wait for just a couple of minutes and to let everybody catch up within reason, and then we're going to start talking. So don't say, I wish I missed that little bit of a lecture. Well, if you want to make sure you get it, try to keep up and stay fairly close to where I am or Lane is, and we'll get that accomplished. Otherwise, that's what the little book is for. Grab the little book and go, I missed that. Go back and it'll give you the nuts and bolts, the bullets of the history of what's going on there. What else? I'll look at Bruce and say, Bruce, what else? Bruce has been with us before, on tours, on the dig.
Just keep a good attitude and have fun.
So, yeah, good. All right, Brandy, you said you had a
I just
point?
have one more safety issue, especially because we have some single folks in the crowd. It is good, if you're going to wander off, grab a buddy to do it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, Petra, places like that. If you're going to go off and do a hike, you're going to go to the high place, or you're going to go take somebody with you. Okay? And just exercise caution.
How about lunch, Stephen?
We will play that by ear.
Okay.
It all depends on where we happen to be.
Okay.
With this tour, sometimes we never know what might occur. So we're always trying to. There are a lot of things that are not on the listing of the tour sites. There are a lot of. By the way, how many of you have the tour itinerary that you downloaded? How many don't have it? Way up, because we're going to get you a copy of it. Brandy, make about 5 copies, and then we'll have them. Okay? We're going to try to take you. We're going to be taking you to more places that probably are on that itinerary to a significant degree, and it all depends on how quickly we can get in and out of places. There are going to be some places that are really spectacular, but they don't have a lot of biblical significance. But they're still fun. So when we go to those places, I might kind of try to say, let's hurry up through this place, kind of soak it in. But if we spend too much time here, then we can't take this exercise. So we'll try to move fairly quickly, and we'll try to do that. Jerash is a great site. It is kind of sort of mentioned in the New Testament, but not really. So we'll go through it. But if you've seen one Roman site, you've seen them all, right?
Did you cover critters?
Excavation, we just need to take a bulldozer and get rid of that modern Roman stuff.
Did you cover critters? Critters like snakes and scorpions and stuff like that?
This time of year, it's cool enough where really the snakes and scorpions just want to sleep.
Okay.
And but there may be some places where they're out sunning on the rocks and things like that. Don't pet them.
Be aware.
So just kind of let them be. But I think we'll be all right in those regards. When we get into places where we might be traipsing through some weeds or things like that, we'll remind you to be careful. Watch out. If it's a real warm day,
right.
Watch out for that.
This bus will stay with us for
We have that you can sit on
till your departure, or for the crossing borders with Israel. We have air conditioning in the bus. Somebody have problems with air conditioning, it can be shut directly from here. We do have a bathroom for emergency use. but we prefer that it will be used in extreme emergency. Also, we have a fridge bar in the back. There's a small fridge, and here up in the fridge there's water, in case you need water. I think it's 75 cents each. So you don't have to pay. You just count how much taken. At the end, you give it to the driver. 45 minutes to arrive to Mount Nebo. Mount Nebo, we do the visit of the monastery of Mount Nebo, and then to Hisbon, visit the ruins of Hisbon, and then down to the south, we'll do the visit of the different other sites, Liban, Makaras, and Erer, and then back to down to the south to the Petra. The total distance from Mount Nebo, let's say, to Petra, it will be approximately around 170 miles, 180 miles, I believe, something like this. It's around 280 kilometers we do. Now, during our trip, we'll be stopping in different places where you can use the toilet and have rest, and we will split it in different the longest we will have as a drive, it will be about 1 hour and a half. Okay.
Hey, look at the sheep. Did you see the goats? The goats. A herd of goats.
Okay, so we're departing from the lowest point in the world, the Dead Sea. We are at 416 meters under sea level, which is approximately 1,300 feet under sea level, considered to be the lowest point in the world. In the upper mountain, you can see some of the green of Jerusalem east. And there is, from the other side, we have the old Jericho and the new Jericho up ahead. And probably you could see even the arrival of the Jordan River that brings its water from Lake of Tiberia down to the Dead Sea area. So we are in the extreme part, western part of Jordan. Jordan, the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. It's a country that have approximately 60,000 square miles. It's bordered at the north by Syria, at the south by Gulf of Aqaba, which is bordered with Israel, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. On the eastern side of Jordan, we have Saudi Arabia. Northeast, we have Iraq. At the west, which you are looking right now, we do recognize by the treaty we have done in 1994 the presence of two states. The first one, the one we're looking at, which is we consider the Palestinian National Authority, and the other one is Israel, which we recognized as the 1948 land. The total population of Jordan in the statistics of 2010, we are approximately 6,100,000 people. The capital is Amman, where we have approximately 2,800,000 people live in the city of Amman. That makes half of the population almost live in the capital, Amman. Jordan have three different areas, particular areas. We have the first geographical site is this valley, which is called the Great Rift Valley, or the Ghor, which is a big, it happened millions of years ago in the Oligocenic period, when this area was covered completely by sea. We have this huge structure that happened from Turkey all the way to Kenya, to Africa, creating what is called the Great Rift Valley. The Great Rift Valley it's particular, it have the lowest point in the world which we've been at, which is the Dead Sea. So the climate is subtropical climate. In Jordan, we have the northern part. It's considered to be the gardens of Jordan, because this is where most of our agriculture has been done. Now we're going to see different of them, dromedary camels. And in the southern part instead, it's much more desertic area. We called it Wadi Araba. And in the middle we have the Dead Sea. from the subtropical climate, the high plateau, it's up ahead of us. It's on the high plateau. It stands approximately around 800 to 1,200 meters, which is 2,500 feet to approximately 3,600 feet above sea level. It's affected by the Mediterranean climate, so we have rain season that starts from October all the way to March, April, and snows up in the high plateau. Each year it snows a couple of days normally. We have a rainfall of around 300 millimeters yearly in the high plateau. Most of the important cities of Jordan, they stay in the high plateau. Now, after the high plateau going toward east, northeast, and then southeast, we have the big extension of the desert of Jordan, which occupies about 70% of the land. This huge desert that we have, it's divided between the basaltic desert up north, lava, volcanic, the limestone desert, which is mostly covered in the middle part of the desert. We will pass by today where we have a big mines of phosphate in that area. And then up south, we have the area of what it's called the area of the Wadi Rum Desert, which is the sandstone desert. This type of mountains that you will see in Petra, which are formed under the sea, with different kind of colors because of the oxidation of iron that exists inside of the sandstone. So this is mainly the three main features of the land of Jordan. Going back to the name Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, that's the name of the country. We call it also Urdun, Jordan. Hashemite is the word that it's come from the family, the tribe of our kings. Right now we do have King Abdullah II. Hashemites are a family, a tribe that comes from Hijaz. Their great-grandfather was Sharif Hussein bin Ali, who have made the Great Arab Revolution. And since after what is called the Sykes-Picot Treaty and the division of this land by different states, his sons have been kings of Iraq and kings of Transjordan, Prince of Transjordan. In 1946, in 25th of May of 1946, United Nations have recognized Jordan as an independent country under the name of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. And from Emirate it became, or from a principate, it became a kingdom. Jordan instead is the name of the river. That's how we got the name of the state. Originally comes from Jordan, which are the two springs of water that bring the flow of Jordan. In reality, there is three. There is Jordan, Banyas, but the name of the river was given as Jordan. In Aramaic or in Arabic, it's Urdun, which means fast and windy. That's how the river is. It flows from the Mount Hermon, from the springs of Mount Hermon, and then goes down to Lake of Tiberia, which is located 212 meters under sea level, approximately 650 feet under sea level. And then it comes out from the Lake of Tiberia down to the Dead Sea in this windy shape, and it drops its water inside of the Dead Sea. We used to have approximately 590 million cubic meters yearly that pass by the Jordan River to the Dead Sea. Now it is reduced to about 100 million cubic meters per year. And this is for different factors: the dams that were built, the climate change, and we have also kind of dam that was built in the end of the Lake of Tiberia. All of these factors have added to bring the level of the Dead Sea to decline. they believe that in 50 years we will be losing the Red Sea and it will become only a big salty lake. And that's what they are trying to do, is to create one channel of water to bring water from the Red Sea to the Dead Sea to save the Dead Sea. Okay, this is a part of Jordan. We will speak more in certain aspects of the society in Jordan up ahead in our tour. But right now we are leaving the Jordan Valley and climbing up these mountains, and we'll be going to...
We're on tour day 1 of the Bible Land Expedition, and our first stop is Mount Nebo in Jordan, just shy of Madaba. We park our bus across the street and enter the site of Mount Nebo, traditionally so. This view is overlooking Wadi Afrit, which is the Valley Afrit. Simply a video pan of the area looking south. It's swinging up towards the north. The beautiful valley with olive trees, villages on the hillside and in the valley. We've moved over to the western side of the park. Here we see a Cubist-style sculpture of Moses. I'm not too wild about the type of sculpture there. I've got a place on my ranch. I could certainly use it to stop soil erosion, but I'm sure some people are fond of that. This one is another one of books, perhaps of the influence of the writings of Moses as they stretch through time, all the way down to today. And here's another view of the western view of the, looking actually just over that ridge is the Dead Sea. Pretty sparse, arid land. There's a stone memorial in Arabic and English of Mount Nebo. So Yaga is the Mount Memorial of Moses. It was first established back in the 30s, or began to be rehabilitated and dug out. What you saw earlier was a little bit of new construction, which by the time you see this video, it's probably finished and in operation. This is again a view of the Wadi Afrit. Olive trees pepper the area. We were blessed to be able to see this area that Moses looked out upon at one time. The scriptures are clear about where he viewed the Holy Land, and it was possibly from this area. I think Dr. Collins gives it a 50-50 chance of it being there. In Numbers 21:20 we read, "From Bamoth in the valley that is in the country of Moab to the top of Pisgah, which looketh toward Jeshimon." There's a verse describing the journey of the children of Israel. These are photographs taken back in the 30s of the site prior to the development and the buildup of the area. These are housed in a structure which you'll see in a moment as we leave that structure. It's like a tent, like a Bedouin tent. And there's lots of photographs and still several artifacts in there. This is a description of Mount Nebo Archaeological Park, which I am going to leave to you to read at your leisure. The record of Moses' death in Deuteronomy 32:48, we read, "And Yahweh spake unto Moses that selfsame day, saying, Get thee up into this mountain Abarim, unto Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab, that is over against Jericho, and behold the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel for possession. And die in the mount whither thou goest up, and be gathered unto thy people, as Aaron thy brother died in Mount Hor, and was gathered unto his people." So we have biblical record of this area, and we're going to see that the museums that they have established here is quite informative if you are blessed to visit the place. like I say, there's lots of olive orchards and new development going on here on the site. This is the courtyard, and it contains displays, one of which you'll see here in a moment. Now, this is the tent, or the Bedouin tent, with a tin roof, actually, that housed the initial artifacts and photographs. And I guess as the economy improved and the Jordanian Department of Antiquities was able to spend a little more money on this site, things were upgraded. This is a display of topography of the land, of the mount, and aerial photos, explanations in English and Arabic, which constitutes most of your tours. Now we're entering the building, the stone building that's lit by natural light, and it's called the Interpretation Center of Mount Nebo. It's filled with photographs, large photographs of Landsat, like the one you see there, and Landsat maps, showing the northern part of the Dead Sea. Again, the descriptions of Mount Nebo are plentiful, so I'll again leave that for you to stop the video at your discretion and read it as you like. Again, written in English and Arabic. They've done a beautiful job in this particular area. I'm not sure if all these photographs and artifacts may have been moved to the new center, which, as you saw, was under construction. As we mentioned, the beginning of the excavation started back in the 30s. The Uyun Musa Valley, the early Bronze Age pottery. This place is filled with Iron Age Moabite figurines and Roman pottery, Byzantine glass vessels, a new Mayyad jar, the three main phases of the Memorial of Moses, and some of its mosaic floors, Greek and Palestino-Aramaic inscriptions from various churches in the area. Mosaics from sites around Mount Nebo, especially Madaba is a very well-known town for mosaics, as you saw in an earlier video. Here are some of the pottery artifacts taken from the area. As we mentioned, or we may not have, that's the Moabite facsimile, the Moabite stone, rather, called the Stela of Mesha, of the king of Moab, which mentions Mount Nebo. The Franciscan excavations since the 30s have revealed that the earliest memorial church to Moses was built at Mount Nebo probably in the second half of the 4th century, just after Helena, the mother of Constantine, was given access to all the funds to start finding out these sites. This is an interesting column. It's called the 6th milestone of the Roman Escros Livius Road. It's on display in the center, and it has a panel explaining that the road was used by pilgrims who came up from Jerusalem through Jericho and the Jordan River to reach the sanctuary of Mount Nebo. These are Roman inscriptions explaining that it is the 6th milestone of that road. The large photographs and artifacts, they help visitors appreciate the road that column marked as one of the milestones, as well as all the other displays and the archaeological artifacts that have come out of this area. The new center provides information about the survey that was conducted in the entire region of the Holy Mountain with the purpose of documenting the archaeological richness of the area and protecting it as an archaeological park. In cooperation with Danish archaeologists, sponsored by the Danish Palestine Foundation. A detailed archaeological survey was conducted, and a map of the Mount Nebo region was prepared, listing more than 700 ancient sites and monuments. Now we're heading out towards the ridge, as again you can see the new construction going on at the time we were there in 2011, November. We'll catch up with the rest of the group in just a moment, and we will hear Dr. Collins as he expounds on the view overlooking the Dead Sea and the northern portion of the Jordan River Valley.
Here's a hole in the ground. So it comes like this and goes. So really we call these mountains, but actually we're just sitting down a hole in the ground. And of course the highlands on the other side drop off to the Mediterranean. So we're not very far as the crow flies, 60, 70 kilometers to the Mediterranean, which is why we have the Mediterranean climate dominating here. So from this point, God gives all the Holy Land, all the land promised, and we're looking at here. What, anybody know? Your geography? Whose tribal allotment was this? Remember? From here, from the Kikar of the Valley of Jericho to Zoar, was the tribal allotment of Reuben and Gad. The Reuben-Gad tribal allotment is here. And the question is, where is Zoar? Zoar is on the Arnon Gorge, okay, possibly even where Babra is. I believe it's on the Arnon Gorge, on the Wadi Mujib, because the Bible gives us the extent of the Reubenite tribal allotment as the Kikar of the Valley of Jericho unto Zoar. So it couldn't be south, any further south than that, because God said to Moses, you will not set 1 foot on Edomite land. You will not have any Edomite land enough to set 1 foot on, because that is the inheritance of Esau. You will not have 1 foot on Moabite land, because that is the inheritance of Lot. Now, the traditional Zoar is on the Wadi between Edom and Moab. How is that possible that Zoar could be the southern border marker for the Reubenite tribal allotment and be on the border between 2 lands that are specifically off limits to the Israelites? Makes no sense, does it? So, Zoar then is somewhere around the confluence of the Wadi Mujib, the Arnon Gorge, and the Dead Sea, probably at the Bay of Masra. Here's a key. In Roman and Byzantine times, Zoar was a deep water port on the Dead Sea. Therefore, it could not be further south because there's no deep water in the southern basin. The only deep water is in the northern basin. Another key is, during the Byzantine period, when the Madaba map was made, this map that we all look at in the church, St. George's Church in Madaba, this particular map shows Zoar at the south end of the Dead Sea. What people don't understand is that in the Byzantine period, the southern end of the Dead Sea, like today, was completely dry. Didn't exist. The only thing that's represented on the Madaba map is the deep northern basin. So Zoar is on the right biblical place on the Madaba map. It's just modern scholars haven't known how to read it until the most recent climatological reports on the rise and fall of the Dead Sea. Now we know why it looks like that. So it makes sense then that Zoar would be just at the Arnon and not any further south. So sometimes you have to work through this geography with a little bit of pain, because sometimes we've inherited wrong thinking from scholars. Yeah, we know exactly where Abraham and Lot were when they separated. Thanks for bringing it up, because I forgot to point out, if you look at Jericho, Make Jericho 12 o'clock, okay? At 2 o'clock, the highest hill. Jericho at 12 o'clock. At 2 o'clock, the highest hill is Bethel and Ai. Okay? Bethel and Ai is there. That's where Lot and Abraham were when they separated. They had camped at Bethel and Ai. And from Bethel and Ai, it says Lot looked over and saw that the circle of the Jordan was well watered. And we'll talk about that from the top of Tal al-Hammam in a couple of weeks. Okay, we'll save that because it's really dramatic from down when you're close, a little bit closer to that action. But so, any question from this point?
Yes.
Okay, let's clear out. Yes.
What are the chances that this is the true Mount Nebo?
I think probably it's 50-50 between that one and this one, but hey, it's only a half a kilometer.
Okay.
So this is Nebo or Pisgah and Nebo. Get your shot quick and we'll clear out for this next group. Yeah, and geologically, that's never been well watered. Now there's a little agriculture down there today because of irrigation. But in antiquity, the cities that were down there were marginal. And in fact, when the climate changed, there was a severe climate change starting about 2400 BC, which put an end to all the cities in the area. And so Babadra and the other sites, the traditional Sodom, Babadra was gone by 2350 BC, or by 2200 there was a little village that stayed till about 2200. What's the earliest possible date you can squeeze out of the Bible for Abraham's birth? 2166. If you use a long sojourn in Egypt, 430 years, which I think is incorrect, but even if you use the long one, it's still before the time of Abraham. So the southern cities were all gone, and they were never rebuilt. They didn't exist during the time of Abraham. So how could Sodom? So, you know, geographically they're in the wrong place. Archaeologically they're wrong. Chronologically they're wrong. 3 strikes and you're out. It's not the right. And this, most of the 19th century scholars, 90% of them, put Sodom and Gomorrah here. W.M. Thompson in 1881, who spent 40 years riding around on horseback through the Holy Land with his Bible over his saddle horn, following the biblical geography, wrote 3 massive, detailed volumes of biblical geography.
Land in the book, wasn't it?
The Land in the Book. And he stood on top of, you read the section on Sodom, he stood on top of Tal al-Hammam. He mentions about it, he camped on the top of it. And he said, I don't know whether it's this ruin or another one of these ruins, which is Sodom, but it must be one of these. Because he followed the Kikar, he followed from Bethel and Ai, he did all the geography, and he nailed it. Of course, there was no archaeology to determine anything at that point, but he knew there was a ruin, and he stood on top of it. So someday, we'll see W.M. Thompson again, and a great missionary scholar, and we'll say, hey buddy, you got it right. you nailed it.
The plan of Father Michael Piccirillo is to change it to a protected area. And he tried with the government to make, because it's not only Nebo, but in the Jordan, in the valley, which we call it the Valley of Moses, behind us, there is a lot of churches. Along the road of Livias, there is a lot of monasteries. Behind this hill, there's a city with different churches. These churches, these mosaics were brought from them. The top of the hill in front of us, that's where he brought the stone. So it was like to make an archaeological park and to protect it, but unfortunately he couldn't. They refuse, and so right now, what mostly right now the Franciscan fathers are working in, it's the different areas that they have excavated. They lost a lot of their influences in the Department of Archaeology after the death of Father Michael Piccirillo. They took Umarsas from them, they took Makawar from them, so right now they're limiting them. And even all of this area that should have been protected area, they built in new places where there's mosaics, laboratories, and so on. So he wanted something else, but he couldn't arrive to it. He really was interested in creating the archaeological park of Nebo and surrounding.
By the way, olives,
Matthew's
olive
harvesting.
trees are indigenous
Cool.
to Canaan, Jordan. So this is their home. Every place else that has olives in the Mediterranean area had to import them from here. Early on, through Phoenician traders, the early seafaring Canaanites,
Right.
Phoenicians, and but this is why the olive oil here is the best, because this is where the olives were.
The Phoenicians, of which they found evidence in Brazil that they were able to cross oceans. Yeah.
And start fresh.
What
So
have
they
they
build
recovered
up like layer cakes.
from the?
So that helps identify where you are in time as you go down. So destruction is good for archaeology. Destruction was not good for the inhabitants at the time, but it's really good for the archaeology.
You could have done it your way. Where do they take most of the relics from?
All right, we ready? Yep.
We're getting back on the bus from visiting Mount Nebo, the mount where Moses supposedly was buried.